My name is Evelyn Carter. I'm 63 years old, a retired teacher from a quiet town in Vermont. I've never made a video like this before. In fact, I've never even considered it, until something happened that left me no choice. I believe there are moments in life that come not just to change us, but to awaken us. And I went through one of those moments. This isn't a story of dreams or imagination. This is a testimony of something I lived, something that still echoes inside me with a clarity that defies logic. If you stay with me through this, I'm not asking you to believe everything. I only ask that you listen, really listen, because this message is not about fear. It's about preparation, about love, and about what I now believe is coming for all of us. I've always led a simple, quiet life. Retired from teaching, I spent most of my days tending to my garden, reading novels, and enjoying the slow rhythm of a small town where not much ever happens. I was never one for drama or public attention. I never considered myself spiritual in a conventional sense. I believed in goodness, in kindness, in being present for the people you love, but nothing beyond that. My home was modest, filled with old books and soft blankets, a place of peace. And then, on a very ordinary Tuesday morning, that peace was shattered. I slipped, just a slip. But what followed was anything but ordinary. It was the moment my entire world shifted, and I had no idea what was waiting on the other side. The fall wasn't dramatic. I was reaching for a glass bowl on the top shelf of the kitchen cabinet. I had done it 100 times before, maybe more. But that day, my footing failed me. My heel twisted off the stool, and I remember the feeling of weightlessness just before hitting the floor. I remember the dull, sharp sound of my body landing. Then, a crack, a flash of pain, and silence. But not the kind of silence you hear in sleep. This was a thick, heavy silence, one that made the air feel like stone. I was no longer in my body, but somehow, I was more aware than ever. Floating above my own body, I saw myself sprawled across the floor. I should have panicked, but I didn't. There was no fear, no confusion, only a strange, calm curiosity. I studied the scene as if I were observing someone else. Blood trickled from my forehead. My eyes were closed, but I didn't feel any pain. That's when the light appeared, not from a source, not from a lamp or the sun, but from the very air around me. It began to wrap itself around me, not blinding, not cold, warm, loving, alive. I was being pulled, not with force, but with purpose, and I didn't resist. As I drifted upward, I sensed I was not alone. There were presences, beings made of light, shaped almost like humans but fluid, radiant, and vibrating with an energy that felt like memory and music combined. I didn't hear voices, not with my ears, but with something deeper. The messages came through feeling, through knowing, and one voice in particular pierced through everything else, calm and commanding. You will see, and you must remember. That was the moment I knew. Whatever was about to happen would not be a dream or hallucination. It would be a mission. The space I entered cannot be described by dimensions. It wasn't a place. It was a presence. I was in a chamber of golden light that breathed. The walls were made of energy. My thoughts, memories, regrets, everything I was, became visible. I felt no shame, no guilt, only truth. One of the beings approached. Without words, I understood. This would be my guide. He showed me something not with pictures, but by placing it inside me. Future memories, scenes that hadn't yet happened, but already existed in a way I can't fully explain. And that's when I saw the world unravel. Cities falling silent, screens going dark, banks locking their doors, a wave of confusion and helplessness spreading like wildfire. It wasn't war. It wasn't an attack. It was failure from the inside. The structures we trusted had simply stopped working, and people were caught completely off guard. But amidst the collapse there was something else, awakening. People came together, shared resources, rebuilt in small ways. Communities of light began to form. That's when I understood. This wasn't the end. It was the beginning, but only for those who were willing to see it with their hearts. And then, the vision narrowed. I was shown a calendar. 2025. The end of May was marked with a radiant flash. It wasn't destruction, but it was unmistakably powerful. A shift, a point of no return. I felt the weight of that date press into my spirit. "They must be ready," the voice said, "and you must speak." That moment, my soul trembled. Me? Why me? I was no prophet, no preacher, just a retired woman with a quiet life. But the answer was silent and certain. Because you will speak from love, not fear. That was my calling, and I knew from then on I could never be silent again. When I woke up in the hospital, everything felt foreign. The bright lights, the scent of antiseptic, the quiet murmur of voices beyond the curtain. All of it felt like a different reality. I was back in my body, but something had shifted. It wasn't just the dizziness from the fall or the soreness in my ribs. It was a disconnection between what I had just experienced and the world I returned to. A nurse leaned over me, her voice soft and kind, asking me simple questions. But all I could think about was the light, the presence, the vision. I wanted to scream to tell her everything, but I couldn't form the words. How do you explain something you don't fully understand? For the first few days, I said nothing. I listened. I watched. I waited. I kept going back to that voice, that message. You must speak. But every time I opened my mouth, fear stopped me. What if they thought I was crazy? What if they chalked it up to a concussion or a hallucination brought on by trauma? I felt like I was holding something sacred, something fragile, and the world outside was too loud, too skeptical, too distracted to receive it. But silence became heavier than fear. I started writing, pages and pages of what I remembered. I didn't care if it made sense. I just needed to capture it before it slipped away. Then came the dreams. They weren't like any dreams I'd had before. They were vivid, specific, and emotionally overwhelming. I would wake up sobbing or shaking, the images still imprinted behind my eyes. Desolate streets, silent cities, people wandering, looking not just for food, but for meaning. And then I would see small groups gathered in circles, hands joined, faces illuminated not by candles, but by a shared understanding. These dreams didn't feel like dreams. They felt like previews, like scenes from a story already written but not yet lived. And they were always followed by the same whisper, "Tell them." One morning, I stood at my kitchen sink looking out at the garden. The frost was melting, sunlight catching on the leaves. It should have been a peaceful moment, but in my chest, I felt an urgency, a quickening. I thought of the date again, May 2025. The memory of the calendar and the vision pulsed in my mind. I knew I couldn't wait any longer. I needed to start speaking, even if it was just to one person. I picked up the phone and called my friend Marie. We had known each other for over 30 years. If anyone could hear me without judgment, it was her. But even Marie, kind and spiritual as she is, fell silent after I spoke. She listened patiently as I told her about the fall, the experience, the light, the visions. And when I finished, there was a long pause. Finally, she said, "I don't know what to say." And I could feel the distance, the hesitation. "Are you sure it wasn't a dream?" she added gently. I didn't blame her. I understood how unbelievable it sounded, but her response only solidified what I had already felt. This journey would be lonely. That didn't mean it wasn't real, and that didn't mean I could stop. If anything, the isolation confirmed the weight of what I had to do. I hung up feeling both hurt and more committed than ever. From that point on, I decided I wouldn't wait for people to believe me. I would speak anyway. I started recording my voice, not for social media, not for attention, just for the record. I imagined someone years from now finding it, hearing it, and understanding. That thought gave me strength. I sat in my living room with a single lamp on, the night quiet around me, and began. I didn't try to convince. I simply told the truth. I spoke about the angels, the light, the vision of collapse and rebirth. I spoke about the calendar, the urgency, the call to prepare. And as I spoke, something lifted in me, like a pressure being released. Days passed, and something strange began to happen. I started encountering people who, without knowing my story, confessed feeling the same restlessness. In line at the market, a stranger turned to me and said, "I don't know why, but I've been feeling like something big is coming." At church, someone shared they had begun storing supplies just in case. These were not people prone to panic or prophecy. They were grounded, practical people, and yet, they were feeling it too. That's when I realized I wasn't alone. There was a quiet wave building beneath the surface of everyday life, a collective intuition, a shared anticipation. At first I thought these encounters were coincidence, but the more they happened, the more I understood they were confirmation. The message wasn't mine alone. It had been planted like a seed in many hearts, quietly, invisibly. The visions I had seen, the timeline, the collapse, the transformation, they were all threads in a much larger fabric, and the people I was meeting were other threads. Some knew it consciously, others felt it like a weight they couldn't explain. It wasn't about panic. It was about knowing, deep down, that the world we depend on is more fragile than we want to believe. And something was already shifting. I began to take small steps. I stored extra food and water, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. I started reconnecting with neighbors. We exchanged phone numbers, shared tools, talked about planting more food locally. Slowly, something resembling community began to form. And in those moments, I remembered the circles of light from my visions. Groups of people gathering, choosing kindness, sharing what they had. It didn't feel like preparing for an apocalypse. It felt like remembering how to be human. And that perhaps was the point. The future wasn't just about surviving. It was about becoming something we had forgotten how to be. The most powerful message I received wasn't about storing food or escaping collapse. It was about the heart. The angels had told me clearly, prepare the spirit, not just the pantry. That phrase repeated in my mind like a drumbeat, and I began to understand what it meant. If people go into this next chapter with fear, anger, or selfishness, no amount of supplies will save them. What's coming is not just external, it's internal. It will shake the foundations of identity, belief, and connection. And without inner resilience, faith, humility, compassion, many will break. The real preparation is emotional, it's spiritual. So I turned inward. I prayed. I sat in silence. I asked questions and waited for answers, not with my mind, but with my heart. And slowly, messages returned, not as voices, but as knowing. They came when I was watering the plants, when I was folding laundry, when I was still. The earth is in labor, one message said. This is not destruction, it's birth. That line changed everything. Birth is painful, chaotic, messy, but it's also sacred. That's what this coming time is, the end of what was and the beginning of what can be. But like birth, it will not be painless, and not everyone is ready. More dreams followed. I saw long roads with broken signs, families walking together, cities dark and silent, but also fields of green, people singing around fires, a simplicity, a humility returning. It was a paradox, collapse and peace, loss and rediscovery. I started writing everything down, not as prophecy, but as memory, because these weren't ideas. They were truths embedded in my spirit. And one message was always there. You must speak, even if mocked, even if doubted, even if feared, because the message was never mine. I was only the one chosen to carry it forward, quietly, faithfully. And yet the more I spoke, the more resistance I encountered. Some people accused me of spreading fear. Others mocked me, called me naive or delusional. A few close friends distanced themselves, unsure what to do with the new version of me. It hurt, but it didn't stop me. I realized that light, when shone into a room long dark, hurts the eyes. The resistance wasn't personal, it was spiritual. People resist what asks them to change, but change is coming whether we want it or not. And those who prepare, who soften, who listen, will carry the torch through the darkest part of the night. In those moments of discouragement, I always returned to the silence, to the golden light I had seen. I remembered the angel dissolving into particles saying, "You are not alone." And I clung to that. I believed it. I still do. This isn't about one person saving many. It's about many remembering who they really are. The systems we trust, money, power, status, will fail, not out of cruelty, but to create space for something real, something rooted in love, connection, and truth. Those who can hold peace in the storm will become beacons for others, and I hope to be one of them, no matter how small my voice may seem. If you've stayed with me until now, I want to thank you, from the bottom of my heart, not just for listening, but for feeling. Because if something inside you stirred during this message, then the seed has already been planted. This wasn't just a story. This was a call to remember, a call to prepare, not with fear, but with faith, and above all, a call to return to what truly matters: love, truth, and the light that no collapse can extinguish. I didn't share this to go viral. I'm not here to debate or defend. I'm here because I was shown something that changed everything in me, and I knew I couldn't keep it to myself. I believe that if even one person takes this seriously, if even one soul begins to seek, to pray, to prepare, the purpose of this message will be fulfilled. This isn't about saving ourselves. It's about becoming ready to serve others when the lights go out, to stand strong in the storm and be a refuge for the confused, the broken, the afraid. So I ask you, don't just scroll past this. Don't just file it away in your mind as interesting or emotional. Act now. Begin today. Start small if you must, but start. Prepare your heart. Speak with your family. Build bonds in your community. Stock what you can. But more than that, kneel, pray, fast. Seek the presence of the one who holds all things together. Because when the world begins to shake, and it will, it's not what you've stored in your cabinets that will save you. It's what you've stored in your soul. And if you're feeling that pull, that restlessness, that nudge deep in your chest, you're not alone. It means you're being called too. Don't ignore it. Follow it. Strengthen it. If you're unsure where to begin, let this be your first step. Subscribe to this channel. Not for me, but so that you stay connected to the voice that first woke you up. Share this video with someone you love. Don't wait for the news to confirm what your spirit already knows. And most importantly, follow Jesus. Not religion, not tradition, but the living Christ who is the only peace in the storm to come. He is the one who called me to speak. He is the one who sent the light. And he is the one who waits with open arms for those ready to return home. This isn't the end. It's the beginning. But what you do now determines what part you'll play in the chapter ahead. Be the light. Be the calm. Be the voice that others will need when confusion descends. The time is short, but the grace is real, and the invitation is open. Right now, for you. If this message reached your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Speak it. Live it. Subscribe to this channel. Follow Jesus. Prepare your home. Prepare your heart. Because when everything begins to shift, it will be those who are grounded in Him who will carry the hope forward. Let's walk this road together. I may be behind a screen, but I'm standing with you. And I believe with all my soul that the best is not behind us. It's ahead for those who are ready. Until next time, know that I'm praying for you. Truly, this isn't goodbye. It's just the beginning of something deeper between us. Come back here. Let's walk through what's coming together. And never forget, you are not alone. You are called, and you are loved. Stay in the light, stay awake, and above all, stay close to Jesus. I'll see you soon.